ask ourselves, what business continuity and planning measures have we put in place? And how are we ensuring they are working for us? Step 2 is to maintain productivity, morale, and to minimize disruption of customers. Until COVID comes close to you, you do not actually appreciate how painful it can be. But when you get checked and you get quarantined and you lose someone, so it's just looking at what are the tools and processes you can keep in place to ensure that productivity remains, because that becomes the second level of our response. Then the third level is mitigating our business impact, because remember, we depend on our employees, we depend on productivity, and after that we can actually be sure that we have mitigated our business impact. Have we invested in the right initiatives to monitor our business resilience? What are the trends in the market? What are the trends in the economy? What is changing? How do we evolve our business? Taking us to number 4, have we taken action to prepare business for future growth? So those we got out of Gartner very much similar to what we are doing, and we keep asking ourselves these very, very often. Then this here I decided to share is questions that have all of a sudden become critical, and we're going to be asking ourselves these questions. What do we need to be doing to make sure our organization is supporting both our customers and employees? How are we addressing and increasing the work from home security? Just related to what I said earlier. How long will the business technologies and budgets changes? How will the technology and budgets change when the crisis stabilizes? So we've been saying, of course, on one side we say this is not permanent, but then how do we actually know what will happen, or how are we able to predict? And those are just some quick questions that I thought would be worth sharing. And my time is up. Okay. So finally, I just concluded with the top 5 recommendations that I thought I would leave us with just before I go into the questions. Number 1 is to balance what our people need with what the business needs, and make sure we leverage these and always pivot to get the best at all times. The other one is to just go beyond the concept of remote work, and we need to capitalize this as a moment to transform. What are the opportunities this gives us? What can it do for us to enable and serve our customers in future? The other is, can we use remote work as a test for our cost structures and monitoring productivity? The remote work gives us opportunities which, if we don't actually change our mindset to start looking at it as a test and look at the costs involved, we could actually leverage those. And then the other is we should consider adopting flexible working hours, and many will admit that when we're working remotely and at home, you'll forget the lunchtime. You'll be able to have calls up to 8, 9, 10 p.m. without knowing. But let's look at, can we have flexible hours? Because the trend right now is organizations are shifting to an outcome-based performance culture. So if you're based on an outcome, then the hours should be able to be flexible. So that is a consideration that we could have. And then we also need to look at this and the way we look at a half empty or a half full glass. Is this a crisis or an accelerator? So is COVID-19 actually the one that has accelerated digitization, or is it a crisis? We need to look at it that way. And with that, I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm happy to take questions.
Brilliant presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, we do have feedback from participants. Excellent presentation, Mr. Herbert, very practical. That's Dr. Petsile Lamini. Zanele Nhlabatsi says, I don't regret attending this session. Thanks, MTN, for such knowledge sharing. Very beneficial. Looking forward to more sessions. And Steve Duplessis, excuse me, says, brilliant presentation, Herbert, so clear. Quite an informative and balanced session. Very interesting. Thank you. That's Lindo Mtupa. So yes, we do have, then we have Rosemary Shongwe. Excellent presentation. Those are the comments that we are having from participants, and we truly appreciate that engagement. And once again, thank you, Herbert, for coming through and sharing your insights with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to acknowledge that we are pressed for time. We seem to have overlapped the time that we had indicated, and consequently, our feeds on social media pages were stalled momentarily, but we are back on track. And I want to assure you that we're getting to the last segment of our presentation, where we will have a panel discussion that is featuring 3 guests. We have Mr. Andreas Dlamini from the Ministry of ICT, Sebenzile Dlamini from Royal Eswatini Technology Park, and we have Hepima Vimbela, who provides oversight on innovations at Eswatini MTN. At this point, I would want to engage these panelists briefly as we close this session for today. And therefore, I would request them to come on camera, on video, Hepima Vimbela, Andreas Dlamini, and Sebenzile Dlamini, as we close the session. Babe Dlamini, are you available now? Babe Andreas Dlamini?
Yes, I'm available, Babel Pondo.
Thank you, Nkosi. My first question to you is that can you give us a broad view? What policies are in place as the ministry in charge of ICT? Do you have policies in place to support digital transformation in this country?
Thank you, Pondo. Maybe I should first say that my first goal here is to answer your question. My second goal is to be as short as possible. Yes, policies from the Ministry of ICT, there is one that is like the blueprint for ICT development in the country, which is the NICI policy, which is the National Information and Communication Infrastructure Policy. That was developed in 2006. This policy sort of laid down the roadmap for the country to develop into the digital space. It is due for review, but it is still relevant even at this point. Secondly, we have a digital migration policy, which was developed in 2012, and we have implemented that one to almost completion. We have the e-government strategy, which again lays out the roadmap for implementing e-government services in the country. We have other policies in different subsectors of services that will be offered in the ICT space, like e-health, like e-education, and things like that. The NICI policy has got 9 pillars, and I want to talk to just a few of the 9 so that I'll be able to be short. The first one to be that stands out is the strategic ICT leadership, which sort of seeks to bring together ICT development in the country in a streamlined, harmonized, and coordinated fashion. So that is where the Ministry of ICT comes in. We also have the pillar that looks at developing legal and regulatory frameworks. As you know, that there has to be a clear policy direction and a well-structured approach to implementing those policies and how we lead the country in developing the ICT sector. There is also infrastructure development, which comes to also facilitate access for all. And there's also the pillar that addresses human resource development. Mm-hmm. So these are pillars of the NICI policy, which I said is the blueprint for our ICT development in the country. In short, let me end there, Babel Pondo, when it comes to policy framework.
Just a follow-up question. I think it would be of interest to the participants to understand if there is something around ensuring that everybody in this country has access to the internet. Is there anything in place whether as in the policies that you've cited or specific projects that are meant to extend, to expand access to the internet?
Yes, the aim of the policy itself, the NECI policy itself, is to bring ICT services to all Eswatini. Now, bringing services, as to how then you bring them. Are you bringing them at a fee, or are you bringing them for a price? The first question is to bring them, is to make sure there is service coverage for everyone in the country, in the urban areas, in the rural areas, children, disabled, everyone should not be left out. That is that's the crux of the policy. Now, when it comes to then universal access, then we come to the questions of, is everyone able to afford the service? Is the service really covering areas even where there is no economic viability for operators to bring service to? So then that is where the ministry again, or government again, has got to try to make some interventions to make sure that everyone does access services. There's also disabled people. How are they able to receive, say, how are they going to be able to withdraw money from an ATM if they are blind? So that is when then you come up with policies to address issues of universal access. Now, the things of universal access are not services that you can bring overnight. It takes time. It takes investment. It takes planning. It takes partners that will be able to that will be willing to bring those services in those areas. So that then we established what we call a universal access fund, which is sitting at the regulator, FCCOM. This fund, therefore, draws up a plan as to how to bring about services in a gradual and phased manner, but progressively trying to cover everybody to make sure access is available to all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nkosi, for those insights with regards to the policy framework that seeks to enable or extend access to ICT in the country. Maybe at this point, let me transition to Sebenzile. What I understand is that the Royal Technology Park is the first comprehensive effort to promote science, technology, and innovation. Can you tell us about that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Pompo. I noted the question earlier with regard to how much we are doing to educate the public about our services, but I will not be able to cover everything I thought I would cover because of the limited time that we have now. I would like to say, though, that we have the infrastructure that a number of speakers before me alluded to. We are able to provide collocation services. Any company that would like to access these kinds of services can approach us, so they can rent floor space and rent space here. We also offer platform as a service. We provide virtual machines, but we're still tying up some loose ends with regard to the private cloud appliance. Our main objective is to be able to support the private sector in Eswatini as well as government to be able to access robust infrastructure without having to lose touch with the data that they would be outsourcing in a way to RSTP. In that way, the private companies and government can focus on developing and implementing policy and improving the various metrics that they would like to measure, especially with regard to the impacts that they are making, either to their customers or the public if it is government, and or shareholders if it is the private sector. We have the innovation support wing, through which we aim to increase the number and value of locally made solutions in Eswatini. We have achieved this to some degree in the ICT space through the incubation center. However, there are certain elements that we have realized that we need to pay close attention to, and we can certainly not be able to address these constraints. I will call them constraints by ourselves, which is why we really appreciate being a member of this panel today, because we believe that MTN is one of the key institutions that we need to work with in order to improve the potential for local people to innovate. One of the things that we need to address quickly as partners is the creation of a robust development environment. By that, I mean we need to enable the local innovators to have good source code management systems and the API integration, because most of the time when they are developing, they do not have access to the APIs. And therefore, by the time they believe they have tested fully, you often find that, the solutions would give them a lot of problems at production stage. We also need to help them to access multi-environment build setup, as well as migration to platforms and cloud. Because when they need to scale up the solutions, it will be quite a challenge if they were not developing this with cloud hosting services in mind at the very outset. And then at the social side of things, we need to pay attention to the capacity building of software engineers in Eswatini so that they can be able to utilize the things that I have mentioned already quite readily. And then the development of pipeline innovators is quite crucial. We can achieve that by paying attention to the content or the curriculum at colleges, universities, and high schools, as well as primary schools in Eswatini, but also the provision of internet to all children in Eswatini, because these are the pipeline customers and also pipeline innovators. And then with regard to income inequality, that will continue to be a challenge for the country, because if a vast number of people aren't able to access banking or financial services as we speak, or aren't able to buy the right kind of gadgets so that they can consume the services that are now provided, we will find that it takes us quite a long time to achieve the impact that we seek to realize. So in a nutshell, I would say we are working both in terms of providing the infrastructure and also enabling through providing tools that innovators can utilize to support the business model innovation for enterprises and influencing the customer expectations and behavior in our environment.
Thank you, Nkosi, for those insights. Quite a mouthful. And on that innovation tip, I would like to loop in Happy Mavimbela from MTN, who provides oversight to innovation within the company. Happy, are you around?
Yes, Mandla, I am here.
All right. Can you tell us the extent to which MTN is embracing innovation and digital transformation?
Thank you so much, Mandla. I believe our CEO and the other speakers have shared what we are doing as a business, particularly responding to customer demands. So mine will be now a challenge to even other businesses in terms of how you use or you encourage your employees to drive this digital transformation, particularly embedding it under innovation. So at MTN Eswatini, our employees are embracing this new reality. We have an innovation program. Luckily for us, we had started it way before the COVID situation came to the fore. This innovation program, we say it is two-pronged. It encourages our people to bring in new ideas to the table. There is a process that we use to assess these ideas. it is two-pronged because it can be ideas that are improving our processes generally, or even new ideas, groundbreaking ideas. So this digital transformation has also now presented an opportunity to now, as we are responding to this new reality of the COVID situation, use innovation to see how do we respond to customer pains by developing solutions. And for any business, the reality is that who knows your business better and who interacts with your customer daily? Obviously, it is your employees. So this is a great area which businesses should focus on in terms of capacitating and also having a clear, I can say, structure or process in terms of if I bring my idea through, how will it be received? What is the handover between the ideator and the company? Because we know we have examples of where people have come through with an idea, then the business, after receiving it, rakes in millions. Then the person will come back and say, this has been my idea, I want a revenue share. So we have a structure that addresses all that. So I can say in a nutshell, Mandla, because I am cognizant of time, at MTN Eswatini, we have a very robust program that ensures that we drive innovation. And obviously right now, the starting point has been how do we digitize our processes, but now extending to a more holistic digital transformation of our business. Thank you.
I'm glad that you mentioned a clear process to reward the person who's come up with an innovation, because we don't want to see a replay of what happened with Vodacom, where somebody, a staff member in my recollection, made an innovation, and what ensued after that was a marathon legal battle. So we don't want something like same theme, different cast, a reoccurrence of that in Eswatini. Maybe let me turn it over now to Mr. Andreas Dlamini as your final comments before we come back to close the innovation loop. Are there any ongoing government digital transformation projects that we can look forward to in the future? Babe Dlamini?
There's quite a number, Babel Pondo. The first one maybe to start from is the one that Brightwell Ngambule referred to, the IXP, the Internet Exchange Point. He referred to it as something that is due for launch, or he was challenging us to launch it. Maybe he was out of the country when it happened. It was launched in 2014. Actually, the IXP was first established in the country in 2003. It's just that not all the players, not all the operators were participating in it. So right now, it is just a matter of encouraging all our operators and all big businesses that have got lots of traffic, of internet traffic coming in, to connect to the IXP, be it a bank, be it companies like the electricity provider, water provider, all those that have got large volumes of customers accessing them. It would be useful for them to connect to the IXP. That's one government project that is in place. There was also a lot of reference to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is very, very important, as everyone has alluded to. And government is actually, okay, the first point is that every company has to have a cybersecurity strategy or mechanism to make sure their data, their network facilities are protected, their systems are protected. However, government has got the responsibility to make sure that the country as a whole is protected, and there is also that national ownership of the issues of cybersecurity. So the country is right now in an advanced project, advanced stage of producing a cybersecurity strategy for the country. So it was drafted with inputs from all stakeholders in the industry or in the sector, and it was put together. Right now, it is waiting for cabinet approval. Then after that, it will be systems go in terms of cyber security in the country, in terms of implementing standards that will be at a particular level for some service providers, depending on how much personal data or how much critical your services are to the country. There will be required standards that should be met, that should be met by those particular providers that will come from the cybersecurity strategy. And then there will also be institutions that will be set up that will be sort of in a position to scan the whole cyber environment, the whole cyber space in the country to make sure that security is maintained. There is also a lot of projects that are ongoing at a smaller level, but of course critical at delivering services to the nation. We've got projects that are dealing with bringing connectivity to schools so that our schools could have connectivity. We have projects that we deal with connecting our hospitals and clinics in the country so that once you register with one particular health facility, then your data will be able to be accessed from whatever other hospital in the country or clinic without you having to carry all those cards and whatever. There is also project to connect Dinkhundla centers in the country. There is also a project to modernize case management in the judiciary in the country so that we do away with issues of lost dockets, lost whatever in the court system of the country. And we also have ongoing right now within government developing an ICT master plan, which will sort of, it's some kind of an umbrella for all these smaller projects, really, as to know that from this point up to a particular point, what would the country have covered in terms of ICT and service provision. As again earlier, it was alluded to, I think it was Brightwell again, talking about enabling payment to government through mobile or through Momo Pay, all those services to make life easier for Eswatini. And then there is also another one which is upcoming, which we call the National Addressing System in the country, so that every settlement or every structure in the country could be properly addressed. This is very crucial in the digital space for the country. So this is a project that will be commencing very soon. It has already received cabinet approval. So yeah, in a nutshell, Babel Pondo, it is to state those. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic for those upcoming innovations. Very, very practical. The issue of dockets, the issue of healthcare facilities, automation of information, amongst others. Quite interesting stuff. Sebenzile, what can we look forward to coming from the Royal Technology Park in the future in terms of digital transformation? What's going to be happening in the near future?
Thank you, Mr. Pombo. I'm very lucky to be following Mr. Dlamini because the projects that he is talking about need very good infrastructure. And that is what we are currently working on at RSTP. You might be aware that the government's mainframe will migrate to our data center here, so that all of the projects that Mr. Dlamini has mentioned can operate efficiently and be provided within a secure environment. We also have one of the things that keeps coming up whenever we talk about digital transformation is cybersecurity. So we have a program through which we provide training or capacity building to the national security institutions within the country. We have already trained some, and this program is available to any other organization that would like to equip its staff on cybersecurity measures, because we wouldn't like organizations to be resistant to change or transformation just because the fear of security threats is overwhelming. And then we have also a call center. Through this call center, we believe that a lot of organizations, especially parastatals, do not necessarily have to build their own call centers, because we can provide outbound and inbound calls, and we can also provide or enable research activities. And therefore, all organizations could be in a position to gather very rich and reliable data on time and be able to influence their business model innovations. The startups that we work with are also working on several projects that relate to modernizing agricultural activities so that farming activities can be profitable in Eswatini and respond to climate change. We also have a startup that's working on a business finance solution that would be very helpful to SMEs who currently utilize paper for their records. And when it's time to submit tax returns, you find that they do not have complete information because their receipts have faded and things like that. And then we have another solution that is still at testing phase, which involves the provision of information relating to what it takes for a student to access particular programs in various universities and colleges in Eswatini. So students can actually plug in their own symbols and then get just an idea of what sort of programs they would qualify to apply for in the various institutions. And we believe that will also help the parents to plan for the tertiary education, because right now we can see that a lot of people were relying on scholarships, but parents have to, plan for the tertiary education. So when students start playing with this kind of tool early on, the parents can then estimate how much it would require them to fork out in order to pay for their studies.
Thank you for that, Sebenzile. Simplification of life processes, improvement of quality of life is how best I can summarize some of these upcoming initiatives at the park. As we draw to the close of this panel discussion, I would want to fire my last question to Happy. Working in the public relations space, I come across a lot of our customers who have innovations that they want to share with MTN. What can you say to those people who have ideas, grand ideas that they want to sell to MTN, that they want to propose to MTN? What's happening? Are the doors open for such ideas to stimulate innovation?
Thank you, Mandla. We will soon be coming back through the media to announce those doors opening. The policy that is currently governing our innovation program also has the provision of receiving ideas from our external stakeholders or customers, or even anyone on the streets who has an idea that can be of value to MTN. So right now, I can say we're at the finalization stage of the policy, because like you alluded earlier, we also want as a business to ensure that we have the proper safeguards for the business and also for the person sharing their idea, because we know it's not only having a repository of the idea, but also ensuring that if I've shared the idea with Mandla, with MTN as Mandla, Happy doesn't wake up the next morning also sharing the same idea. So I would say to everyone, we'll soon be announcing this program now being opened up to the greater society in Eswatini. Thank you, Mandla.
Yes, we are looking forward to that time when customers can contribute to the success that MTN is becoming in terms of coming up with innovations and coming up with solutions that would improve the quality of life, simplify life's processes and activities. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that essentially takes us to the tail end of our seminar. I would like to particularly thank our panelists, Sebenzile Dlamini, Andreas Dlamini, and Hefima Vimbela, who assisted us with the last segment of the program. Once again, we thank you that you've invested time to be part of this discussion, and please do make sure that you register and also indicate your details so that we can be in touch with you in future for forthcoming engagements. Thank you once again for your patience. We will be in touch for more engagements of this nature. So that brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for coming through. We really appreciate you sticking around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.